guys, it's your girl Bukola again. Welcome to Lekki-swiss YouTube channel and our space. We talk about everything real estate. For our new subscribers, welcome. For our old subscribers, welcome also. So today we'll be talking about all the legalities in real estate. Like you come to this space for your DIY real estate tips. So we are going to be going through the legalities in the real estate sector. And going through it with us today is the legal counsel here in Lekki-swiss. So she's going to be talking to us about it. Now, stay tuned. Stay tuned though, so that you will know what to avoid in real estate. Yeah? So welcome to the space, ma. So please, ma, just introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Barrister Judith Samuel, and I am the legal counsel to Lekki-swiss Properties Development. We are located in kilometers 36, opposite Mayfair, in Lekki, Lagos State.
Thank you very much for that, ma'am. So, first of all, what is it like to be a barrister in the real estate sector?
Okay. Well, what is it like to be a barrister in the real estate sector? It's a very lucrative and interesting aspect of property law. Like, we have commercial law, we have corporate law, and we have property law. Then we have criminal law and civil law. So basically, under all of this, corporate law and property law are merged into one in terms of land and property issues and all of that. So properties are everything that is fixed upon the face of the earth. Buildings, shops, whatever it is, residential, commercial, everything is called property. Even if an empty land is also regarded as property. So it's a very interesting aspect and very fast rising area of practice in law. Yeah, and most legal practitioners would normally, their first choice in terms of practice would be commercial and property law, because of how lucrative and how fast selling it is, and it is richly rewarding if you know your A game. Yeah,
that was very, very insightful. So, going into real estate and the legalities now.
Yeah.
So, I would ask you, what are the documentation aspects of real estate? And I mean, that's really your past. So how can you just shed more light into that for us?
Okay, like we know, documentation is very important. In fact, it's the main or most important aspect of property law. So what is documents? Documents are basically a piece of paper in which transactions are clearly written out, clearly stated. It introduces the parties, it introduces the consideration. Consideration, we mean, is a price. So we don't say, okay, we sold this property for 500,000. The price is 5. We say the consideration for the property is 500,000. So documentation is very important. It introduces the history of the property, how the family derived their title in the property, that is the original owners of the land. And then it introduces history of the parties, how they met, and the conditions upon which the transaction was entered into. So yeah, documentation is very, very important. Imagine you want to go to the market and you want to buy very important commodities, and you go there, you have your legal tender, which is your money. You exchange your legal tender with the seller. So you go back on the understanding or the promise that the seller will deliver the things that you bought from him to you later. Now, if there is no evidence, no written evidence showing the transaction, the contract between you and the seller, do you know the seller could decide not to deliver those things to you much later? Why? And then you can have, there won't be nothing, there won't be anything for you to show that there was a transaction between you and the seller. So documentation is absolutely important. Now let me come in terms of law. Now, there's something we call the gentleman's agreement. Gentleman's agreement is an oral agreement. That is words, agreements said with the words of the mouth. If two people or two parties are into a contractual relationship and there is no paper written agreements, documents showing the terms upon which they both entered into that agreement, if either of the parties go to court on the basis of a default by one of the parties to the contract, the court will not pay attention. The case will be thrown out of the judicial window. And there is this very important provision in Evidence Act that an oral evidence cannot be induced in court to dispense with a formal or a documentary evidence. What it means is, if you and I, per se, we have a contract, and there is a third party who entered into a contract with me, and the terms of our contract were clearly written down, stated in a piece of paper, signed by both parties, him and I, and then between you and I, we just had an oral agreement, a gentleman's agreement. If peradventure there is a dispute in the future, and we all three goes to court, the court will give audience, the court will pay more attention to the person with a documentary evidence than you with an oral evidence. So documentation is absolutely important. Documentation goes from the time you started the transaction till when you concluded it. It goes from the receipts showing the consideration upon which the contract was entered into. It goes to the contract of sales. It goes to any other documents subsisting or supporting that transaction. So documentation is the main life, is the blood life upon which a contract will stand or die. Yeah.
I know that now.
Yeah.
I know. Take your documents seriously. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what are the types of documents through which a person can derive title?
Okay, title. Okay, when we talk about title, we are basically talking about a person's local standard. That's a person's rights over a property or over anything at all. Local standard could actually exist in the right to actually sue a person and be sued. Okay, so it's not only property related, but now we are talking about it in terms of property, right? So title, it's like the blood through which flows through the vein of the transaction between you and I. If there is no blood flowing through that vein, the contract will die, right? So the title is a piece of document upon which I can act upon that property, upon which I can sell, alienate, assign, transfer, do whatsoever without a hindrance, without encumbrance, without disturbance, from time immemorial to the time I want to dispense with the property. That is my title, that is my locus, my rights over the property. Okay, I wanted us to understand what the word title means, because title in Nigerian parlance means other things. It could mean like in the Igbo tradition, it could mean your alias, other names that you have, is some sort of a chieftaincy title or anything. Excuse me. So we have different kinds of title. We have family derived title. We have government given title. Let's talk about the family. Yeah. So we know that some families have what we call they've been existing in the land. So we have what we call escission. They've been existing in the land from the time immemorial, exercising acts or diverse acts of ownership by farming, planting, giving out the property for cultivation to other people, renting out, selling, buying, and all of that. So most titles are derived from family. The families that originally existed on that property before it was sold to other people. And then title could also be derived from the government. As we know, under Section 1 of the Land Use Act, it provides that all lands in Lagos State belongs to the government. It belongs to the governor of Lagos State, and it is from him all title would be derived. Okay, so title is, you could have CFO, that is the certificate of occupancy, which is given by the government of that state. We have the accession gazetted. We have some properties that the government have specifically provided that this property has been gazetted, this property has been set aside. So then we also have governor's consent. We also have deed of assignment. Deed of assignment is usually derived from the family to the buyer. Okay, the family will give you a deed of assignment, and then from there you derive your title. But if you want to have a more meaningful and powerful title, you could proceed further and go to the government to give you what we call a certificate of occupancy, or you could ask for consent, governor's consent on the property. Now, the essence of title to the property is where there are disputes between two people over a piece of land. The court will give audience, okay, priority to the person with a higher title. What is a higher title? Governor's consent, certificate of occupancy. Now, if there's no governor's consent, there's no certificate of occupancy, the court will fall back to what we call the deed of assignment receipt. Do you understand? So in the tree of hierarchy, we have the governor's consent, certificate of occupancy, deed of assignment, receipt. You understand? So these are the types of title through which a person can derive his right over a property. Yeah.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
You're welcome.
So, this will be the last question.
Okay.
We've been enjoying your your speech. So, I don't want to go. But then let's not keep you for too long.
Okay.
So, as a lawyer, like, what are the legal red flags you give out to give, like, to investors? Like, what should investors look out for legally?
Okay, there's something we call caveat emptor. Caveat emptor is a Latin maxim translated in English. It means buyer beware. So it could be translated to also mean red flags a buyer should look out for when trying to purchase a property. So the red flags we'll be looking at before you make purchase of any property, you go and do what we call searches, investigation on the property. Now, you could do your searches in the land registry, courts registry, and then you go to the family that originally existed on that property, and you make investigation. You ask questions. You know, if you have a lawyer, the best thing for you to do is to get a lawyer who will do all of this for you. I'm available though. Thank you. So if you have a lawyer, the person could actually go to the villages and just sit down in a bar, just sit in a public place or in a marketplace. Just find somebody who is probably selling something and then ask, this land, this family, you know, how, you know, just be friendly with any old person in the village so you could get information relating to that property. If there is encumbrance on that land, this is the best way for you to know. If there is no legal case, if you've gone to the land registry, nothing is there. You've gone to the court registry. If you've gone to probate, you know what probate, wills, where you keep wills and administrations. If you go to the probate registry and nothing is there, the land is free, then you have to do the traditional search. Traditional history of the land would tell you. Now, if you go through these processes and there is nothing, then the land is free from encumbrance. You would have done everything that is required of you under the law before you purchase the property. But these are the things that you must do. Okay? Yeah.
Now you know.
Yep.
So don't go and buy anyhow land. Eh? So thank you very much, guys. You heard from the lawyer. So make the right decision and come and invest with Lekki-Swiss. There is no mago with Lekki-Swiss. Straightforward.
Yeah.
Your allocation on point. Is because payment plans juicy, very juicy. So you heard, and now stay with me. Don't go, please. Subscribe. Now just stay with me, and next session will give you another juicy part of real estate, the real estate sector. It's your girl once again, Bukola. Bye bye.